we're making a transition. We have had Bill's the story about his background, his upbringing, his training or lack of training formally, his on-the-job training, and we would now want to talk to Bill about everything he's learned being distilled into his thoughts about a program on conflict resolution and this dream that he brought to us to create an institute at the University of Washington Tacoma.
And can we also have a clarification about conflictology, if that is just a term that's used in Soviet Union or Russia, or whether it has a universal meaning?
It was used in Russia as a study of conflict, and Jim Lowy of George Mason University, now deceased, he began to use the term, but he also used it in a limited way, i.e. the study of conflict. He just liked the idea of it. And we've documented saying, guys, that's not what you're doing, okay? Conflictology is the study of conflict in terms of its theories, its processes, its costs, and its consequences, as well as is in terms of the theories and processes for its prevention, management, and resolution, or I should say theory, processes, and skills. And so really conflictology is, I mean, I have the thing written out, even in some of the stuff I send UWT, I mean, that's what it is. And I really have problems with programs that say, oh, we give you a master's in conflict resolution. I say, why? Because people need to know how to negotiate. They say, well, the vast amount of negotiations is not conflict resolution, it's conflict prevention. We simply call it planning. And then the second most frequent use of negotiations, again, it's not conflict resolution, it's conflict management. How do you prevent a bad situation from becoming worse? And conflict resolution gets this much, but it's important. It's the big stuff. It's dangerous stuff, whatever. And it would be good in a class to say, well, why don't we look in terms of the difference between chaos and crisis and dispute and conflict. I mean, actually what we're trying to do is we're trying to transform a lot of conflict into disputes. You look in the dictionary, conflict really talks about volatility and emotion, and dispute is more rational, and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, the conflictology, I think, your program at St. Petersburg, it's not the study of conflict. It's a study of conflict in a broader sense, what causes it, and what are the things to prevent, manage, and resolve it, from theory to skills. And I would hope, and I don't know if I have a dream, but I certainly have a vision on how to fulfill a need, and we can talk about why UWT. But I really think that the school ought to be different from the start. And I would suggest that they actually use the term conflictology and define it what it is, right? I mean,
Set the standard.
This is Catholic, and so this is universal, this is broad, this is comprehensive. This is what we do. We don't just do conflict analysis, as some schools have in the title. We teach conflictology from beginning to end, and so there should be some really distinct parts of that.
Did that evolve over time? When you first began the program at St. Petersburg, did you have this universal concept?
No. I said over probably vodka. I'm not a big drinker at all, but probably over vodka one time. I said, Jesus, you do much more. And I think I came up with the definition. Sasha said, write it down. And then we started dealing with that. And how much has got incorporated, I don't know. But
this is over the years. Or
no.
Did you, right at the beginning, you said it's...
No. I probably did this 10 years ago.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So from a 30,000-foot perspective, make your wish, express your vision. What will this project look like? How will it operate, and what will be its output? What will be its product?
And why is it different? That's what I want to get. Why is this program different, and in what ways, than what might be offered out in the rest of the world?
I want this program to have an authenticity that I don't think many of the schools have. And the authenticity is in terms of its very purpose, and in terms of the outcomes that they want to have. and some of this language you've heard before because I've written it is this, but I, we are living in a world that is filled with conflict, and it's going to get a lot worse and a lot more volatile, and the consequences are going to be a lot more severe, whether you're talking about the environment, whether you're talking about social economic classes or whatever, on that. And I think that people, no matter what vocation they're in, they need to be able to have skills and a commitment in terms of how to prevent, manage, and resolve conflict, whether it's fairness in the workplace, which is not my biggest interest, whether it's in terms of natural and environmental resource management, which is important to me but not my biggest interest, whether it's in terms of racial and ethnic relations, which is very, very important. I've participated in that an awful lot on it, whether it's just in terms of equity in society, but it needs to happen on it. And my biggest interest is in the international scene on it. But it's just not a program. They've got to be committed into the fact that they are going to produce practitioners who are competent, credible, and confident. I put those three C's together. I want them confident. I know what it's like to go and dispute and not be confident. Like, what am I doing here? But fine. So those three things are very, very important to me. And I think they ought to also be producing students and have an emphasis that is going to enhance best practices. I mean, I'm dogmatic because I have a dogma. You can take it. People have asked me for stuff. We'll attribute this to you, some of your curriculum. I said, you can use my curriculum, take my name off of it. Because it's so old, I don't want to be associated with it. We've grown beyond that. The things that we're doing now in conflict prevention, management, resolution have got to be considered as embryonic 10 years from now. Have to be. Just like medicine. My God, we don't do that anymore. And so they've got to be committed to enhancing best practices on again, and I'll always be saying conflict prevention, management, and resolution on that.
This innovative aspect aside, what are other programs that are attempting to do conflict management or resolution doing that it is wrong or outmoded or not responsive to your point?
Well, this is the third piece, I guess, is you really need to close the gap between theory and practice or application experience. You really need to close that gap on it. Because I look at some of the curricula in very fine schools, Harvard and George Mason or whatever, and it's so heavily academic. I mean, it needs to have academic excellence, and no doubt about it. You have to. You're an academic institution. Okay, fine. But to be spending so much time in terms of the theory of conflict and the theory of analysis and the theory, I mean, you can shrink that down tremendously.
Do any of these schools study the cost of conflict? Do any schools?
Well, they do studies on it too. I mean, is it a political cost? Is it an economic cost? Is it an environmental cost?
Is there anybody who's using
not
broad
thoroughly
conflictology perspective?
I don't want to say no. Somebody maybe say yes, but to the thoroughness that I would like to have it seen done, I would say it's lacking. Even if it's lacking in the fact that, okay, it's not practical, it's not applicable because it's not understood by the practitioner, the real practitioner.
Is St. Petersburg doing it?
St. Petersburg, at any program you have to recognize that conflict resolution is just a part of an interdisciplinary social science, right? I mean, you got to have sociology, psychology, economics. I mean, you have to have those things. I think St. Petersburg did an amazing thing in terms of, well, there's another component here, and this will lead into it. You really got to evaluate the program. You just can't do what the brochures are that were in the stars, And evaluations, it means including in terms of what didn't work that well and why. And St. Petersburg University took one of their major programs, and they asked me to help them write the article on it, and it just got printed in a book, and it says an 85% settlement rate, a 91% compliance rate. That for most 99% of colleges, that would be the end of the article. not St. Petersburg, colon, what happened to the rest? And the whole study is, how come 15% didn't settle? How come we got settlements and 9% didn't hold up? That to me is a responsible institution on it. You're never going to get the best practices, you know. You go to a mediation conference.
You mean that's always a goal? It's ephemeral. We're working towards it.
It's not a goal, it's a standard that you're going to do right down all the time.
But wait a minute. You said you'll never.
Oh,
get
I
to-
see. It's one of the, it's a commitment that you're making, one of the purposes. We are going to evaluate, we're going to be honest about it.
And we're gonna evolve it.
Absolutely, to find out what works, what didn't work. Don't throw out what didn't work, find out why it didn't work, kind of situation on that.
Some of our audience, Bill, is going to be a 22-year-old just finishing a bachelor's degree program in poli-sci or some other social science. Talk to that human being for a minute for us and tell that human being or that person how this curriculum is going to continue his or her training. What will it equip him to do? How will it be different? What should he expect from it if he enrolls in this practicum or this?
Well, because I would start from this, like, why are you even enrolling in this class? Why do you want it? Yes, you do. Come on, don't be afraid to tell. Come on, let's go. And I just keep on asking, find it like that. And sometimes, because I want to understand, hey, good answer, creative answer, never heard it before, never said it before. I love it, situation on it. So I really can't answer that question until I get an inkling what they want to do with it, okay? But I first want to shrink their expectations, saying, if you think you're going to take this course, get a certificate, and settle the Middle East dispute, it's probably not going to happen. You're probably not going to be a Richard Holbrooke. Somebody will be, but it probably won't be you. However, if you want to have fulfillment that you are a practitioner, and people respect the fact that you are really a catalyst on how to prevent, manage, resolve conflict, either in the private sector or the public sector, or for ecology, or for community development, or with Indian tribes, or in Afghanistan with warlords. This is for you. This is what you want. You will know you're good. You'll know you're damn good, and people will tell you are. Just don't use it too much. Just don't blow your own horn on the situation, right? I mean, but I think right from the start at UW2, if you're going to be different, then you have to start out differently, right from the start. From the title that you use, from the purposes that you use, from the fact that you're going to use this kind of this commitment to evaluate, that you're going to close the gap, that you are going to have a very meaningful supervised field experience, right? This is not going to be like George Mason, which doesn't give you any skills training at all. If you want a PhD, you go to George Mason to get it in conflict resolution. Great school, great people, love them all, right? Do you want skills training? Then you go down to the local dispute resolution center where they do divorces and trailer park stuff like that, and you can take a weekend course down there. Oh, we do have field experiences, Bill. They have to work for 2 weeks with either people with HIV or the homeless. Well, I think
the George Mason program.
Yeah, I think that's meritorious. I don't know what the hell it has to do with a real field experience, Or John Hopkins, we assign you to a federal agency, and for an entire semester, and then you have to write a white paper. Terrific experience. It's not what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking in that you're going to have. My preference would be you're going to have an entire semester, in a well, let me use the international. You're going to have an entire semester in terms of Afghanistan, and you're going to be working with a coalition of warlords, or you're going to be working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or you're going to be in ecology. You're going to have that. I don't care if you hold their horses. Okay, you're going to have a cross-cultural experience, and you're not going to offer much except ask questions. So why would you do that?
It could be a whole different division of the Peace Corps.
It
It would be at the university level here. It would be in the field, actual hands-on experience.
Absolutely. And I doubt if you'll be mediating as such, but you'll be mediating indirectly, as I do with them, saying, well, Gore, I just want to ask you one question. Okay, did you expect them to accept your proposal? Yeah, I really did. Yeah. Why didn't they? And I know what he's going to say, but most people, what my clients say, because he's stupid and insensitive, he's, stubborn, he's a craphead, okay, fine, let's get through that. Why didn't they do that, Well, they probably thought it would be too time consuming. Where would they get that idea? They probably thought it would be too expensive. Tell me, Dr. Go, where would they get that idea to be too expensive, right, They probably thought I was uncooperative. Good idea. Why would they say that? Because you swore at them in English? I mean, you're mediating, and all you've done is ask questions. But they would have that experience, and they will know, I got it. It'd be the gestalt. I got it. I know how to do it. I got it. And that's what I want them to come out of. I got it. Not that you spent 6 months, that you got it.
That's the confidence building part.
Absolutely. At that, but
I hope that it addresses what you're saying. Your actual life expresses pretty well what
it
we're.
illuminates.
It sure does.
It illuminates the needs and what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, Kissinger is wrong. He says mediators aren't made; they're born. Baloney. All this stuff is transferable.
Huh?
It's all transferable.
There's another one.
Absolutely. Whether we all have different skills, to be sure, but it's all transferable and very teachable, very trainable on it, and so much of it is common sense.
Are you recording this?
But many of the approaches that we use are uncommon. Just like we call them uncharacteristic strategies, like when Nixon went to China, uncharacteristic strategy. When Carter got Sadat and Begin to say, okay, well, three of our heads to say we're going to suspend our work, turn it over to somebody else for 10 days, and solve this problem. That's pretty uncharacteristic. Well, bringing in voting machines with inmates and is uncharacteristic. Like what's the alternative? Anyway, and that'd be, that really is one of the best thing about best practices is how do you push the envelope? See, I don't. We're talking about negotiations most, but I have a real problem with the new breed of mediator now. They come in, and they're very uncomfortable dealing with conflict. So the first thing they do is separate the parties, and then they shuttle. And I've seen them do things like, Mike, that's the dumbest case I ever had. You have no merits whatsoever. I'm surprised you even got here. They're going to take you to the cleaners. It's stupid, And they go in there and they tell you the same thing like that. And you end up with a mediator settlement on that. It's just total manipulation. It's just nothing honest. And when I mediate, I do take caucuses, and they say, well, Bill, do you think you'll accept my proposal? I said, well, let's go and find out. Well, why don't you go in and ask them? I said, no, it's your proposal, And so do you think they'll accept it? They will or they won't. Seems to me like you're really wondering. It sounds to me like you're hesitant. Do you think they'll accept it? Well, do you want to change it? And they usually change it.